Good day, I am Welton John Canoy and I'm here to report about the effects of globalization on the government. So, there are lots of effects of globalization in our government. So, I'll be discussing a few of the effects of globalization. But first, let me define what is globalization. So, globalization is the process of interaction or integration of among people, companies, and the government worldwide. So, with that being said, I'll be going through the effects of globalization. So, first is penetration of global or outreach of global entities. So, diri kuan kanang in sa globalization, so kanang since na ura man nag-collaborate ang mga tao na naasa ko ano tao, mga entities sa government, may mag-interact sila, so makaproduce sila mga projects or mga services which will benefit them like na maka-partner sila pagi sa ilang pag-collab. The next is globalization of local or localization of global events. So, for example kami, if mag-interact ang mga entities sa local or global mga bodies. So, na sila yung mga mabuhat ng mga events such as mga SEA Games or kanang mga UN, kanang United Nations or kanang sa panadya nga involve if not all countries, daghan nga countries. So, next is revolution of rising expectation. So, since one man kanang we are in a process of globalization man, so nagkadako gyud ang expectation sa mga tao sa kanang sa mga ma-produce kung unsay mabuhat sa mabuhat sa government due to the globalization. Then the next one is clash of cultural identities. So, since globalization man, daghan man involved na mga countries na mula na mag-clash ang mga cultural differences nato sa usa kay every country has different cultures. Magbasan nga nila sa Philippines na isa ta country pero daghan kitang cultures kay we are archipelago nga country. So, muna if kuha ng mga global entities or local entities na ginay differences sa ila mga culture mo nang kuha na something maka-disagree silang duha or mga both sides sa parties. So the next one is the conversion of international border into boundaries. So like for example sa Korea, manay duha ka part to South Korea and North Korea. So since lain man ang government sa North and South, mulagi ang North kay higpit ang ilang border, ilang gihimong boundary. So ang taga South Korea or bisan taga laing nasod maglisod og kanang sulod sa North Korea kay ilang governance kay more on military power. So more to guys. So thank you for
Hello, good day to all. Good day, sir. So, I am Engine Cadet Paloma. So, I am assigned to discuss about the institution that govern international relations. So, let's move on. The institution that govern international relations. So, to start with, international institutions are a central focus of international relations scholarship as well as policy making efforts around the world. So, the first The first is the APSI, or also known as the Association of Professional School of International Affairs. So this institution comprises 37 members, schools around the world, dedicated to improvement of professional education in international affairs and the advancement thereby of international understanding, prosperity, peace, and security. So, therefore, APSI members work to promote excellence in professional, international affairs education around the world by sharing information and ideas among members and schools and with other higher education institutions. So, in addition, all APSI schools offer 2-year master degree programs. So their courses of study are designed to impart a true knowledge of international relations, public policy, and world's countries and cultures. So, and lastly, the main aim of APSI school is to train students to lead in the world where nations are increasingly linked in matters of peace and war, business and commerce. And next is we have the GSC, or also known as the Global Study Consortium or GSC is an international academic association of over 20 institutions of higher learning. It seeks to promote and facilitate graduate teaching program in global studies and to foster cooperation among them, and that cooperation includes exchange of materials and development of methods to survey outcomes, and annually meetings and study exchange program. So GSC deals only with graduate level program, and there is no comparable association for an undergraduate degree programs. So bawal ang mga walay non-graduated person. So the GSC was founded at a meeting of representatives of University Global Studies program held in February 2007 at the Orfalea Center for Global and International Study of University of California at Santa Barbara. It has been influential in defining the new field of global studies. So that's all for today, and thank you.
Hi there sir, good day. I am Indian Cadet Itogi, and I will be the one who will continue to report about institutions that govern international relations. So the following topics are the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs, or which they call APSIA. The second one is the Global Studies Consortium, which was already reported by Cadet Paloma. So I will be continuing three institutions, which are the International Studies Association, the GFIVE Association of International Relations, and the fifth one is the Swedish Association of International Affairs. So let's start right away. So the International Studies Association, or ISA, is a professional association for scholars, practitioners, and graduate students in the field of international studies, and was founded in 1959. ISA has now over 7,000 members in 110 countries and is the most respected and widely known scholarly associations in the field. ISA also endeavoring to create communities of scholars dedicated to international studies. And ISA is divided into 6 geographic subdivisions, 29 thematic groups, and 4 caucuses, which provide opportunities to exchange ideas and research with local colleagues within the specific subject areas. And ISA also publishes leading journals in the field of international studies, and the annual convention routinely draws over 6,500 attendees. So that's it for International Studies Association. Second topic is all about the GFIVE Association of International Relations, or which they call the GFIVE. So GFIVE was founded in 2007 or 2008, I guess, based on what I've searched. So GFIVE has emerged as an academic platform for serious international studies with membership across the disciplines and professions. GFIVE offering special access to young scholars. So GFIVE has successfully held international level as well as inter-university level seminars and conferences, and has brought out a couple of major publications apart from occasional papers. And we have GFIVE have local chapters in a number of Indian states. So the GFIVE Association of GFIVE has been launched to commemorate the 60th year of independence of India. So that's it for the GFIVE. And the last topic is all about the Swedish Association of International Affairs, or the UFS. So the Swedish Association, or UFS, is the national organization for the associations of international affairs also over Sweden. The purpose of the association is to spread knowledge and create debate about foreign affairs and global issues from a variety of opinions and perspectives. And the organization is not affiliated with any political parties or religions. So that's it for me today. Thank you for listening, sir.
So good day, sir. I'm Cadet Eliseo, and I'm going to tackle about the difference between internationalism and globalism. So first, we define what is internationalism. So it is the principle of cooperation among nations for the promotion of their common good. So for example of that is the United Nations, which is it aims for unite people for their common good, and while the globalism is the attitude or policy of placing the interest of the entire world above those individual nations. So it means that it only mind in the greater good of entire world, not as individual nations. And here are the difference of globalism and internationalism. So globalism is the end result, while the internationalism is one of the tasks, tools, or processes to achieve them. So for example, McDonald's company operates over 30,000 restaurants in 100 countries. Its worldwide expansion is an example of globalism or globalization. While the making of design and menu that it's adaptable of its various local taste and custom is an example of internationalism. And globalism is more with the nations and their economies, while internationalism is more related to the individual, firm, and corporations for doing up their businesses. And globalism is an economic process as it aims in integrating the economies, while internationalism is an improvisation process as it will lead in expanding of the business across the nations. And the major factors that affect the globalism are infrastructural and logistics setup, telecommunication, and etc. While the internationalism gets affected by cultural tastes and preferences, local traditions, and etc. In economic, internationalism is political, economic, and cultural cooperation between nations. And while in globalism it is an ideology based on the belief that people, goods, and information ought to be able to cross national borders unfettered. So unfettered means not restricted or freely. So they can freely cross or import or export their goods and information across the national border. And lastly, the globalism is a socio-economic system dedicated to free trade and free access to the market. So, as what I've served earlier, the example about the McDonald's company, their company has it helped a lot in our company to grow, and it give people free access to their markets and without unfettered. So that's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon everyone. So today I will be talking about the rules and functions of United Nations. So first, we need to identify first what is United Nations. So United Nations is an organization founded in 1945 after the Second World War by 51 countries committed to maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations, and promoting social progress and better living standards and human rights. So at first, the United Nations is only composed by 51 member states, and now after 75 years, so there are already 193 member states in the United Nations. So UN does not only give peace to a nation, but the humans itself, specifically its rights and help to the poor. So that is their primarily aim to help the poor. So UN and its system have many other ways in making the world a better place, like gender equality and advancement of women, counter-terrorism, international health, and expanding food production all over the world, because in this world there are many people suffering from malnutrition. So it is one of the main objectives also of the United Nations to expand food production all over the world to maintain proper health of the people. So UN has four main purposes or role in this world. So the first one is to keep peace throughout the world. So to keep peace throughout the world, UN takes effective measures for prevention and removal of threats to the peace. So the best example for this is their counter-terrorism movement. So they also conforms with the principle of justice and international law. The second would be to develop friendly relations among nations. So UN wants to strengthen universal peace, and for that to happen, they need to develop friendly relationship to all nations. And the third one would be to help nations work together to improve the lives of poor people, to conquer hunger, disease and illiteracy, and to encourage respect for each other's rights and freedom. So, UN aims to develop a world where no one is suffering or being abused. So as long as they have resources to help, they will help anyone. So the best example for this is when the Philippines is having the Typhoon Rolly. So the Philippines has been devastated by the Typhoon Rolly, and at that time, UN calls for help to all other nations to help the Philippines, because Philippines is also a member of United Nations. So when UN calls, there are many countries donated to the Philippines. So as what I have researched, they have gathered 189 million, I think, or 33 million dollars to help the Filipino people from the Typhoon Rolly. So the fourth one would be to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations to achieve these goals. So UN wants to be the way of the nations to achieve goals that would benefit the whole world, especially in promoting world peace. So that would be all for the role and functions of United Nations. Thank you.
So hi everyone, I am Indian Cadet Igot, and the next topic that we're gonna discuss about is the relevance of a state amid globalization. But before we proceed with the content in the slide, let me introduce to you first what is a state and what are its elements. So the first thing is, what is a state? Well, a state is a distinctive political community with its own set of rules and practices that is less or more different with the other communities. So, this state has four elements. The first one is the population, and the second one is the territory, and the third one is the government, and lastly is the sovereignty. So, what do you mean by population? Well, they are permanently present in one location, which is strengthened by a territory. So the next one is the territory. So it has a clear boundaries which is effectively controlled by the government. While the government, it is the one who regulates the relations among its own people and between other states or territories. And so the last one is, which is the sovereignty. It is the one which means that the state is formally constituted sovereign political structure encompassing people, territory, and as well as the government. However, the sovereignty may be stepped upon if in any case it will step on the rights of the people. Like for example, what happened in the war between the US and some of the places in the Middle East. So, sovereignty is like a boundary between two states, and that is the one that that protects each of the states' cultural practices and even beliefs and doings. So, next is let's differentiate what is a nation and what is a state, because most commonly that is the two terms that are misinterpreted by most people. So a nation pertains to the people rather than any territory or borders or even institutions. While on the other hand, a state relates to the government, the territory, and its internal and external authority. So that is the difference between the two. Now going back to the slide, so it is stated in the slide that the role of the nation state in the global world is largely a regulatory one as the chief factor in global interdependence. So what do you mean by global interdependence? So it is a mutual dependency between two states. So that is the role of the nation state in the global world. So it help each states of the world to have a global interdependence. Also, while the domestic role of the nation state remains largely unchanged, states that were previously isolated are now forced to engage with one another to set international commerce policies. This is because the states that are not likely to socialize with other states are forced to socialize due to globalization. It's not that they are really forced by any ammunitions. However, they will be tried to interact with the other nations as well due to globalization. And next is that through various economic imbalances, these interactions may lead to diminished roles for some states and exalted roles for others. So that will be all for now for the relevance of the state amid globalization. Thank you.
I am Engineer Apa. So our topic will be the challenges of global governance in the 21st century. So first, what is a global governance? So global governance is a movement towards political cooperation among transnational actors aimed at negotiating responses to problems that affect more than one state or regions. So the government is the one who will provide safety of the citizens and a good morals of laws towards the citizens in order to avoid conflict. So their rules is to provide global public goods, particularly peace and security, justice and mediation system for conflict, functioning markets, and unified standards for trade and industry. So with the emergence of rapid globalization, the rest to the international system have grown to the extent that formerly localized threats are no longer locally containable but are now potentially dangerous to global security and stability. So, which means that with the advent of rapid globalization, the challenges to the international environment have evolved to the point that the previously localized threats are no longer locally containable but are instead potentially harmful to global security. And at the beginning of the century, threats such as ethnic conflicts, infectious disease, and terrorism, as well as new generation of global challenges including climate change, energy security, food and water scarcity. So scarcity means is the shortages of water and food. Or internationally, migration flow and new technologies are increasingly taking center of station. So one of the most example of the disease is just like now we are dealing with the COVID-19 or coronavirus, which is many people suffers, and the government's challenges is to provide a vaccine in order to cure the disease of the people. So our economy corrupt and many other things that people have lost their life. So in climate change is like before, like in Bagyong Ilanda, like many people suffer and lost of their loved ones, and the government has to support them in order to live a good life and move on with that situation. And that's all, and thank you. So next reporter will be DG Cordova.
to tackle about three effects of rapid globalization are driving demands for more effective global governance. So, independence has been a feature of economic globalization for many years, but the rise of China, India, Brazil, and other fast-growing economies has taken economic independence to a new level. So the country and the other fast-growing economies has taken economic independence to a new level through gaining relative importance in the medium, high, and high-tech industry segments given the global trends. Thus, for advanced countries, it will become increasingly difficult to specialize in high-tech activities, leading to a general erosion of comparative advantage pattern over the longer run. So this latter aspect is also important as advanced countries tend to lose the role of being higher tech intermediate inputs provides for manufacturing process as emerging countries tend to take over more and more production stages themselves. So the BRIC countries and other fast-growing economies has taken growing political influence. So the term of BRIC was coined in 2001 by Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill to group together the four fast-rising economies such as Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So the next is the multiple links among climate change and resources issues. The economic crisis and state of fragility have risk for the future illustrate the interconnected nature of the challenges on the international agenda today. So actually what we are experiencing right now is economic crisis that was caused by the disaster we experienced due to the climate change as an effect of our economic growth. So the next bullet is many of the issues cited above involve interwoven domestic and foreign challenges. So the globalization has been criticized in recent decades for the unequal power dynamics of international trade and the policies that are used to exploit developing countries for the profit of the developing Western world. The anti-globalization movements is critical of the globalization of corporate capitalism for this reason. Many anti-globalization activities, however, call for forms of global integration that provide better democratic representation, advantage of human rights, so fair trade and sustained development, and therefore feel the term anti-globalization is misleading.
So I guess that would be all for now. And if you have further questions, you can just contact this email down below. Thank you.